Hi, I'm the Dreaded Geek. Welcome back. At PAX over Labor Day weekend, I got to play Sentinel Tactics with the producers of the game. I had good fun playing it with them, and I want to get this review filmed and have the opportunity to show you all how the game works and what I think is good about it. My copy is still all nicely in the punchboard because I was playing with the demo copy at PAX, but I will punch out enough of it for a demonstration. So first of all, the board pieces are all two-sided. One side is a nature desert scrub kind of scene. And the other side is a cityscape. They are very different to maneuver around and to negotiate, which is one of the pros of this game. It has that flexibility to it. I'm going to pick two of the characters that I got to see played more than the rest this weekend, as an example. So these cards are a small cheat sheet of the actions that every player has access to, and descriptions of the turn phases on the reverse side. And then each character has a small deck of cards that they use during play. Unlike a lot of games, the cards are not a randomizing factor. At any time when you need to play a new card, you have access to the whole of your deck and can choose which cards to play. Each hero in any given scenario has a number of actions they can perform. Unsurprisingly, Tachyon, being the speedster superheroine, has 3 actions to Bunker's 2, Bunker being the defensive tank of the Sentinel universe. And then Tachyon has 3 defense, Bunker has 4. And to calculate movement, both Tachyon and Bunker get to roll 3 dice. The difference being, Tachyon gets to choose the largest of the 3, Bunker has to choose the middle of the 3. So even though Bunker overall rolled higher, he ends up with less movement because of that mechanic. Each character has innate powers, basically always on effects in these two on Tachyon's sheet, or attacks like these two at the bottom of Bunker's and this one on Tachyon's. These are always available to the character regardless of which cards they have exposed at the time. To start the game, you select 2 cards from the deck and place them face up under your character sheet. I'm not going to place Tachyons out right now. I'm going to talk through the strategy around Bunker first. So as I mentioned, Bunker is very much a defensive character. His goal is to let some other silly hero get close enough that he can blast them. 1 or 2 attacks is usually more than enough to take care of any hero. Tachyon, on the other hand, has a run-in, strike, run-away mechanic. She doesn't have a lot of defense, she doesn't have a lot of defensive powers either, and very much does not want to be where you are and where you are hitting, especially if you're Bunker. So Bunker has 3 movement, as we saw from my roll, and movement can be from one hex to another if that hex is at the same elevation being marked by these little white marks on the board. If you're moving from elevation 2 to 1 or from 1 to 2, that costs you 1 extra movement. So it takes 2 movement to move up or down this cliff. If this was from 1 to 3, as some of the cliffs are and a lot of the buildings are, or even more, it takes 2 movement to make that. It takes 3 movement, 2 extra movement to make that 1 space, 1 hex move. Bunker has, the majority of Bunker's cards are attacks. However, one of Bunker's mode cards, you may activate any attacks in your deck, even those not in play. So to me, having that card in play is a no-brainer. It gives you 1 extra action. It doesn't allow you to move, but for the most part, Bunker really doesn't want to. He wants to wait for you to come to him. And it allows you access to all of the attacks in your deck without having to have them in play. Bunker's other mode card gives you extra reach and lets you re-roll auto-miss dice, and I'll talk about what those are when I get to the attack mechanism. The only other card that it makes sense to have in play with turret mode is the auxiliary power source that adds attack tokens and aim tokens to Bunker's character sheet, which will enable him to hit more often in combat. So these 2 are optional depending on exactly what's going on in the combat at the time, and this one really should be in play at all times unless you really need to make that 1 or 2 movement points in order to get close enough to get an attack off. Tachyon, on the other hand, all of Tachyon's actions are unlimited. This is one of her innate powers. Unlimited means that an action can be taken as many times as you have actions to take during the turn, not that you can take them as many times. Bunker, on the other hand, can only use each of his actions once in any turn. The other innate power on Tachyon is the accelerated assault. Whenever Tachyon sprints, a sprint action moves you 2 hexes on the board, regardless of any elevation or line of sight or hazard differences. Whenever Tachyon sprints, she may then make one of her attack actions for free. She also has an ability. Tachyon has mobility, and mobility means whenever you take a sprint, you can take a second sprint for free. And when Tachyon takes an action for the 2nd time in a turn, she may take that action a 3rd time for free. As you can see, although Tachyon only has 1 action more than Bunker to start with, and when Bunker's in turret mode they have the same number of actions, Tachyon just starts piling up the free actions as soon as she starts getting her innate powers and her power cards down on the table. Attacks. There are attack dice and defense dice. If we use Bunker's flat cannon attack as an example, the cost to make the attack is 1 action, which is what this icon here means, and he gets to roll 5 attack dice. If you look at the chart next to the attack itself, 2s and 6s are faded out, which means that any dice that come up 2 or 6 are auto miss. In this case it's only 1. Bunker's artillery mode that I meant to leave on the table means that he can re-roll 1 auto miss die, so I get to re-roll that one, and it came up 6 again, so it's still an auto miss. So I hit with 5 dice, a 1, a 3, and 2 5s. If I had any attack +1 tokens, I could spend them for an extra attack die. If Tachyon had any defense +1 tokens, she could use hers for extra defense dice, which in this situation she would really want to do, because only rolling 3 defense dice, she's definitely going to get hit by at least 1 attack. She can block my 5 with her 6, my 3 with her 4, and my 1 with her 4. Had I rolled all 5s, for example, she would only be able to block 1 of these, as these 2 are not high enough to block 5s, and would have taken 3 points of damage. This diagram here shows that Tachyon only has 4 points of damage, so that would be fairly lethal to her. If I had an aim token to spend, an aim token converts all of my attack dice to the highest number that I rolled overall, excluding my auto miss. It wouldn't convert them to 6s in this case, because that's obviously not a lot of use to me. So if I had an aim token to spend, that would convert all of these to 5s and make those 2 4s useless. There is an equivalent defensive token that I've forgotten the name of momentarily. It's a dodge token, I think. Anyway, there is an equivalent defensive token that can be used to make all of your defense dice equal to the highest dice rolled, which would make these into 6s and would then enable Tachyon to block 3 dice again. The phases of the turn are quite simple. The first phase is the power-up phase. During the power-up phase, you can exchange one of your current power cards for another. If in this turn I needed to actually move Bunker, I would get rid of my turret mode, put down my auxiliary power surge, or perhaps put down an attack, depending on what I was planning on doing this turn. The surge phase, any cards that have surge abilities printed on them, like that one, take place during this phase. In this case, Bunker gains 1 attack +1 token and 1 aim token, the things that I was just talking about. The next phase is called Go Time. This is when we take our actions. Bunker has 2 actions, 3 if we're in turret mode. The first action being to take that attack. My movement also happens in this phase, movement not being an action in and of itself. And any cards that have that icon as part of their activation cost take an action to perform. Not every action costs an action to perform. Bunker has 1 that costs health. I don't seem to have that card in front of me. I'm hoping I just missed it when I picked it up out of the box, but here are 2 examples from Tachyon's deck of actions that cost health to activate instead of taking an action. For Bunker, very much, especially against Tachyon, if you've got Tachyon in range, take your 2 actions and the one from being in turret mode to blast Tachyon, and if you haven't killed her yet, spend health for the extra attacks. It's worth it every time. Tachyon isn't often going to stop in your range, so take advantage of it when you can. That's about it for the rules of the game, for how it works. The strategies of the game are incredibly different depending on which character you've got down. Bunker and Tachyon are two of the most different ones, of course. Bunker having a mode when he can't move at all, and Tachyon being the speedster. These are two of the most different heroes in the set. But all of them are entirely different from each other in how they operate and how their tactics work, how the cards work in combination with each other, how you want to be trading cards out. The different scenarios that come in these comic book-like setups are really well described in the story introduction, and then you set up the board in a specific way, and the heroes have specific objectives, and then they go from scenario to scenario through this book to tell a story, sort of small campaign mode. Obviously you would never play on just 2 board pieces like this, but there is a skirmish mode where you complete the circle, so it's 7 pieces around, and it's they call it Death Valley. You start up on the sides of the valley, come down into the middle to have this big conflict in the middle. And hero versus hero, almost gladiatorial combat style scenario. That's what we played most of at PAX, because it's relatively quick and can involve lots of people. That's about it for the rules. It's relatively simple to get the hang of and play. There is that depth of strategy to it, but most of all, it's fun. This game is a lot of fun. It's easy to build up into relatively large dice pools, and you're rolling and re-rolling and adding stuff, and you're convinced that you've got enough dice, and then the defense is rolling and re-rolling and adding more dice and converting the results of dice until they whittle you down to only doing 1 or 2 points of damage, and then they heal some of it, and then you're spending some of your damage to get that extra attack to try to cut them down, and it feels like heroic combat. It feels like good old school comic book heroic combat. It's a great game. Highly recommend it to anybody who likes this size of a game. The miniatures that came as an optional add-on to the game are okay. They're not the most detailed miniatures. They're not the best I've seen in the board gaming world. And they're not necessary to have a good game. They make your game look better, they make it easier to follow at a glance, but they really aren't necessary to have a game. I've played with the tokens at PAX and I've played with the miniatures at PAX. Neither felt more real to me just because of that change. So if you are a budget-conscious shopper, don't bother with the miniatures. Go out and buy another small game instead. However, if you do like your accessories, there's nothing wrong with them. They are detailed enough and different enough to be readily identifiable as the heroes they are, and they do look good on the battlefield. They come painted or unpainted. I bought mine unpainted, but if you don't like painting miniatures, they come painted as well. And I can't really say either way. It depends on you. It depends what you want out of your game and out of your budget for board games. And this has been a review of Sentinel Tactics.
And I am the dreaded geek. Thanks for watching.